All right, so we're up to over here. V'hinei b'kol ze yuvas gam kein misholim d'Rabbi Meir. So I guess the Maamar was talking about over here, brought out before, that when there is an aliyah, there's also the chitzonim, and we're separating the toiv from the ra. The ra wants to go up also, so you have to give something to the ra, and you give it so to appease it. You give it the ashon haktoiris. He's talking about before. So he's going to continue, and he's also going to bring down a very interesting story of the Gemara. Before we read it inside, I want to actually read to you. I have it in my note over here. It says, "Koza yuvan gamke misholim d'Rabbi Meir." Aposik tzadik mitzora nechlatz. So this is a posik in Mishlei Yud Aleph Ches. It says like this: Tzadik mitzora nechlatz. A tzadik is escapes or gets out of his trouble. Vayovei rosho tachto. That's what it says in the posik. A rosho comes in itself, and it doesn't say it inside. I'm just reading the end of the posik, okay? So the Gemara says over there like this. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan said 300 moshels of the foxes. He had 300 moshels of foxes. And the Gemara says we only have 3 left. We have only 3 left from his moshel. So what is it? So he talks about the 3 psukim. So one pasuk is in Yecheskel, with Chesbeis. Over there the pasuk says, Avos yoichlu basar boiser b'shinei bonim tikena. I'm going to look outside from it, then we'll look inside, because he doesn't quote the whole thing, and I'm quoting you now the whole Gemara. It's just an interesting piece of Gemara, and I'm pretty sure when I'll read it to you, you'll say, "Yeah, I know that story," because it's an interesting piece of Gemara. So it says that the fathers will eat boiser. Rashi says unripened fruit, and the teeth of the children will become tikena. That's the result of eating that fruit. So the father eats it, and the children suffer. Basically, that's what the pasuk says. There's another pasuk in Vayikra Yutes Lamed Vav. It says, he tells you should have fair scales. You should have righteous scales, righteous stones, meaning that you should weigh correctly. We'll see that also comes in the whole idea here of shekel, mishkal, of miznaim, and further, the pasuk says, as the Gemara brings down here, that a tzaddik is escaped from a problem, and the Rasha comes inside. So how does the Gemara explain? How does Rabbi Meir explain these with a moshel? So he says like this: it was one time a fox, he tricked the wolf to enter. He says, go into the chotzer, to the courtyard where the Jews are on Friday, and you go in, prepare with them the meal of Shabbos. They're all prepared, and then you will eat with them on Shabbos. So he's trying to convince the wolf to go help them. So as he came to go in, so they all got together with sticks, and they beat up the wolf who was coming there. So the wolf went trying to kill the fox. So the fox says to the wolf, the only reason they beat you up is not because I told you to go there now. It's just one time your father started to help them with the meal, and then he ate up all the good pieces of meat. So they're beating you up because of your father. So he says to him, my father ate, why should I get beaten up because my father ate up the meat? So he says, yeah. So that's why he quotes the pasuk. It says, the father will eat the boiser, and the teeth of the children will, that's one pasuk. But he says to him, come with me. I'm going to show you a place where you can eat and you can get satisfied. So he comes to the he comes to the well. So by the well, they had this wood, and they had a string, and they had two buckets that were tied on the well. So the fox goes into the the bucket on the top. So the one was down, one's on the top. He goes onto the top, and when he goes down to the bottom, the other bucket goes up to the top. So the wolf says to him, "How come you went in there?" So he says, "Oh, down here, there's meat and there's cheese. There's a lot to eat. It's great." And he showed him the moon was reflecting in the water. It seemed like a circular piece of cheese. So he says, "How do I get there?" So he says, "Go into the upper bucket that's on the top." So he goes in. So he goes down. So he descended, and the fox went up, and he walked away, and he left him over there. So he says, "How do I go up?" So he said to him the other verse, "Tzaddik mitzora nechlatz v'yover Rasha tachto." A tzaddik escapes, and the Rasha comes in his place. He says, doesn't it say so? Moiznei tzedek, as it says, should have righteous scales. Okay, so what does he want to say from this story? The Zev, he told him, he's a Rasha. The Zev represents the Rasha. And it comes Erev Shabbos, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain, when all the aliyahs in the world are going up, all the birurim, the netzutzis, and there's a separation. So the wolf comes along, he also wants to benefit. He also wants to make an aliyah. And that's what happens is that the story, that's the parable from it, that he gets the malchus, as he brings from the Zohar also, that at the time they want to go up, they're beaten and they're pushed down so that they can't go down. And this whole thing of going down and eating the cheese, this represents the 6 days of the week in which we have to be mevarer birurim. And then on Shabbos, when the Rasha goes down, but the fox, the birurim that he did, that goes up and that's elevated. We'll see inside now, inside there. So he brings down with all this, we can understand the parables of Rabbi Meir, al posik on the verse, Tzaddik mitzora nechlatz, a tzaddik escapes, and then the Rasha comes in his place. As the Gemara says, and Rashi explained, that the fox tricked the wolf to go into the courtyard of the Yidden on Friday, on Erev Shabbos, and he will eat with them on Shabbos. So the Gemara says there, Chibru Allah b'maklis. So they all got together with sticks. So he says, but then he says, Abu Boyimi. Then later on he says, come with me. I'll show you where you can have a good meal. Nichnas hashul b'dliha elyen. So the fox went into the upper bucket, v'hichbit, and it went down. V'yorad lamata. His weight, it descended the bucket down. So v'dliha tachten ola. So the other bucket on the other side went up. And he showed him the image of the moon in the water, like it's like cheese over there. So the wolf went into the upper bucket, and he weighed it down, and the bucket that the fox was in it, that went up. Till the end of the Gemara, so he explains. Well, Inyan, he said, look at this. The 6 days of action, which means the weekdays before Shabbos, they are all what extends from the 6 corners. The 6 corners basically means the midos are 6. From there, it extends, that is, they come down below to vitalize the world. From Atzilus, it goes down to the world. And then when it comes Friday, Maschilin Balis Lamailo. So the midas, the Bach Tzavas Al start going back up. Ubeshabbos Sutachlis Aliyos. And on Shabbos, they actually fully elevate, go up. So when they go up, so when they're above, they take the flow and the energy which is in Atzilus, they absorb it when they go up. And then from the flow that they took over there, they further influence all 6 days of creation. We know that the 6 days correspond to the 6 midos, and every day, Sunday is Chesed, Monday is Gemura, Tiferes, Chol Sheish is Yimei HaMaisa, Yoim b'Yoimei, each day in its day, U'Kameshikosu b'Pritz Chaim, as it says in Pritz Chaim. However, Al Yusum Zu b'Shabbos, how do they go up on Shabbos? By the sorting out that they sorted out during the 6 days of action, the breaking of the vessels, so that in the 6 days of creation, into the world there came the 288 sparks, and they need to work with it. That's what it says. 6 days you got to work. What does it mean, work in this context? You got to be the birurim. You got to sort out all these sparks, all the nitzutzes. One goes to his orchard, one goes to the olive tree, one goes to the orchard, meaning everybody goes to work, everybody does their thing, what they need to do. What is the intent on the path of the service to Hashem? What do we mean over here? To bring up the sparks. When he davens with the power that he got from the eating and he gives tzedakah, he brings everything up. During the weekday, that all happens. What happens on Friday, Erev Shabbos and Shabbos? Whatever was sorted out during the weekday, then it goes up on Shabbos. What you accomplished during the week goes up to the Shabbos. Because on Shabbos itself, you can't do that. Give Shabbos better also. On Shabbos, you can't do the level of better. Shabbos ein bechinas yirides k'moy b'choil. And Shabbos, there isn't this level of descent as in the weekday. Sheyerim above k'tzovos lebarer berurim, that they go down to be lebarer berurim. We don't have that on Shabbos. On Shabbos, over there, the world, everything goes up above, the worlds go up above. Whatever was sorted out during the weekday goes up higher and higher. That's what happened on Shabbos. So he said this also explains, the Gemara says, on Shabbos, the Chachamim found it difficult to allow to study Torah. Why is that? Chachamim were afraid, a person gets too involved, the Shabbos, but is it because she tirud davar? It was with difficulty. Why? What is the connection? Because this Shabbos is not the time to talk. Over there is the time to be silence, basically. Because on Shabbos, you are elevated to a level which you're in the presence of the king, or you're in the presence of Atzilus. Over there is silence. You're not during the weekday, you're speaking, expression. The person. That's a level of silence, of being quiet, which is a higher level than speaking. Why? Shtika means totally subjugation. As the pasuk says, it's no longer to speak. You have to be a metzius. You're somebody who's talking, but over here it's silence. Pasuk says by Chulu Hashamayim on Shabbos, meaning what? Lashon Klois HaNefesh. Chulu literally means finished, but here he says this expired. What mean the soul expired? That it was expired in V'lachein HaMitzvah L'Shorer B'Shabbos. That's why it's actually a mitzvah to sing on Shabbos. Why? As the Rizal writes, Shehu B'chinas Klois HaNefesh. When you sing, there is the expiration of the soul. Not to talk, but to sing. And the Beis HaMikdash on Shabbos, there was a double song. What does it mean, a double song? So in the footnote, in the parentheses, it says Nira, that it's saying the Lemer. It seems like he's trying to say, he's talking about there was an extra song, because when they brought the Korban Musaf, then the Levim would sing again. Because otherwise, what is this, a double song that he's talking about over here? So it means a double song. And this is a saying of our sages. It's basically a play on word. In the Mishnah, the Mishnah Shabbos, it talks about the various different kinds that the animal wears. It's called a shir, it's called. But a shir means a song. So they're paraphrasing, using the words that it says the behema can call out b'shir, and they can be pulled by the shir. That's the animal. But over here it says that yotzim, you leave, you expire through song. When you sing, that's the way Klois HaNefesh. So you expire through song, and then you're even pulled higher through the song, because there's only a certain level you can do yourself, and then you're pulled higher. They go out with the song, and then they're pulled with the song. Pirush. They go out in the expression of their soul till the step that they go by themselves. And then vinim shachim b'shir means ulemailo mimadregosim. That's even, they're pulled higher than the level. They could not go by themselves. So there was a descended a hamshacha from above to pull them even higher. That's now he's going to explain the song is higher. That's why we can't talk Torah on. That's why there was a hard time talking Torah on Shabbos. Why? Because this level of song, the level of bittul, the level of the expiration of the soul is higher than the level of Torah. This is on a higher level than Torah. Why? Torah is the supreme chokhmah. That is the combination of letters. So that is already Torah. But this is ki imrakam shocha shedimshach la'davar b'chinas bittul shukah. This is only being drawn to this matter in a way of subjugation and yearning. This is not words or anything. Okay, so then the question is, if it's such a good explanation, so how come it says with difficulty they permit it? So why do we speak Divrei Torah then? So we shouldn't speak Divrei Torah on Shabbos. And the answer is that you need, that bittul needs to hold on to something. Those Divrei Torah, you can't have just bittul by itself. It has to be bittul with something. There is an expression from the Zohar, Nekuda Behechla. The point means bittul, there's nothing other, but it's in the room. There has to have a room in where it is, otherwise it can't exist. Yet still, they still allowed to speak Divrei Torah. This song and the bittul cannot exist without anything. You need Torah still for it to exist. This is the idea. We say there is a point. Nekuda represents just a point, bittul, but it's still behechla. Hechla is in the room. Ha-hechel hu ha-Torah. The room, that's the Torah. Shenikra, the Torah is called Heichla ilo de Kuchabrichu, the supreme room of Kuchabrichu. Ubo dafke miskayim hanekuda. There dafke the nekuda can exist. Shebechinas bittul chulu. The bittul can exist. You need the room. You need the Torah. Ayim ashekosuf b'inyan nekuda b'heichla aposkere yanechin esnefnecha. So it says v'hinei hazev hu moshel the klippah to the shoy. The wolf is a moshel for klippah and shoy, as the pasuk refers to their rasha. Tzadik nichlatz v'rasha. That means the zev is an example for the rasha. V'zeu sherima hashul as hazev likones lechotzer Yehudim be'erev Shabbos chulu. This is what the fox tricks the wolf to enter into the courtyard of the Yidden on Friday and erev Shabbos. Why? Shaklipa oilagamke be'erev Shabbos. The clip also goes up on erev Shabbos. Kidei lishol parnasoso k'moshe kedusha oilog. She also wants her sustenance, just as the kedusha goes up. She wants to go up too. She'acher shegomru vov ktsoves the kedusha. Lalois, after the four corners of kedusha completed their elevation, these four corners is basically Shem Shoirish Samach Ribui Nishamas. 6 is the root of all Nishamas Israel. Why 6? Because 6 and 6, like we had on the breastplate on the Choshen, that the Kohen Gedi had 6 of their names, one on one side and 6 on the other side. So it's 6 and 6, but those are represented by the 600,000 neshamas that come from the 6 and 6, which is the 6 come from the 6 midos, the kedusha. So when the Yidden have completed the Vav Ktsoves old elevation, so she follows them also. She also wants to take a portion. That's why, for that reason, she goes up erev Shabbos. She wants to go up. So then from above extends shalhuva de isha, a flame of fire, and it brings down the ra mata mato. Zeu mashekosu b'moshel de Rabbi Meir chibra lo b'makos. This is what it says. They gather together and they beat him up. That's like that fire that comes down to push down the Ra. Then the fox tells him, I'll show you another place to eat. What does it mean? Show him what to eat. Basically, the Shul was telling him, in order to go up to Shabbos, you got to first eat. Eat meaning to be mevarer all the birurim. You have to be down there in the bucket, down in the world, eating the cheese and doing over there. That's when you can have later on the elevation. But Shabbos follows the weekday. Kiniksiv lasis es Shabbos. Lasis es Shabbos means basically to keep Shabbos, but here it means you make Shabbos. Or we say umisha torach be'erev Shabbos chulu. One who troubles himself before Shabbos is going to eat on Shabbos. So basically, what does that mean? That you have to before Shabbos. B'hainu shemitchila tzorich leided levarer berurim kolov yimei ha'maisa. You have to be mevarer for 6 days of Maisa. He says, let me show you how to get food on Shabbos. He says, I'll hold you not. That's the place. Zeu inyan hamoshul mahabeir v'asfosim mutal eitz. This is the moshul of the well, which on the edge there was lying a wood. B'chevel mushkav olav, and there was a rope on it. Ub'shnei roshe hachevel shnei dloim, and on the 2 heads of the rope there was 2 buckets, kshurim that were tied. Nichnas hashol b'dli ha'elyon. The fox went into the upper dli. V'hichbi, the way v'yorad lamata, went down. Then it went up. Basically, he says if you go down, then you can go up. Then Shabbos comes. What did he show them? The Demus Halavona b'mayim. What is specifically that means? The image of the Lavona and Mayim. Levona is Malchus Makabel, a recipient. So that means that the fell down into the water. The Mus Halavona Shemayim Hainu. Pirush Mus Halavona B'Mayim Shemayim Hainu B'chinas Shemban. That's the level of the name of Shemban Shenoflu Lamatu B'Shviris Hakelim B'chinas Mayim Tachtonim. Like this, we have the waters that are al Rekia and the waters below the Rekia. So the Shviris Hakelim, they descended from above the Rekia, from Toyu, into Mayim HaTachtonim. So that's the Mayim in the water. And that's the level of Ban that fell down, Ban, the Gematria Behema, that fell down into the world. You have to bring them up in a level of Mayim Nukvim, Be'er Mayim Chaim, a well of fresh water. And how does it go up? That's through the man going down to be Varar Ban. So basically, that's what he showed them, what's taking place in the Olam HaMaisa, the Shviras HaKelim, and the work to elevate it. And this is the example from the two buckets. Through the fox going into the upper and weighing it down, and he descended below. That's the example when the Shema goes down below, levare, to sort out. So then the lower one goes up above, and that's the nitzutzim of the ban that go up above. As we learned before about the half of the shekel, about the whale scale. That through one side going down, the other one goes up. Over there we explained earlier from the Rai Mehemna that through going down, the other side goes up. So that's the way Alter Rebbe explains here this whole idea. Pretty amazing, huh?